The sound of my daughter hitting the water will haunt me for the rest of my life. It wasn't a dive, it wasn't a slip, it was a push, deliberate, violent, and cruel. One moment, my 7 months pregnant daughter Sarah was standing on that dock, trying to reason with her mother-in-law. The next, she was airborne, her arms instinctively wrapping around her belly as she fell backward into the cold lake. Patricia Sterling stood there with her hands still raised, her face twisted in an expression that was somehow both satisfied and disgusted. Her husband, Robert, watched with his arms crossed like he was observing a particularly boring sporting event. And my son-in-law, Michael, the man who'd promised to love and protect my daughter, he turned away. He actually turned his back as his pregnant wife struggled in the water. But they hadn't counted on my brother. Marcus was off to the side, having wandered down to check on the boat. He saw everything. And when I tell you that man moved like lightning, I mean it. He didn't hesitate, didn't shout, didn't waste a single second. He hit that water running, his dive so powerful it sent waves rippling in every direction. I was screaming Sarah's name, running toward the dock, but my legs felt like they were moving through quicksand. Time stretched out in that horrible way it does during a crisis, every second feeling like an eternity while simultaneously moving too fast. Marcus reached Sarah in seconds that felt like hours. She was panicking, swallowing water, her heavy sundress pulling her down. He grabbed her, supporting her weight with one arm while swimming them both back with powerful, angry strokes. His face. God, I'll never forget the look on his face. It was rage in its purest form. When he hauled Sarah onto the dock, she was coughing and gasping, her whole body shaking. I wrapped her in my sweater and held her close, feeling her heart hammering against my chest. But Marcus didn't come up immediately. He stayed in the water, his hands gripping the edge of the dock, his head down. I could see his shoulders rising and falling as he tried to control his breathing, his anger. When he finally pulled himself up, water streaming from his clothes, he didn't look at me or Sarah. He looked at the Sterlings, all 3 of them, and what I saw in my brother's eyes made even me take a step back. "You pushed her," Marcus said, his voice so quiet and controlled it was terrifying. "You pushed a pregnant woman into the water." "It was an accident," Patricia said quickly, but her voice wavered. "She lost her balance." "Don't." Marcus took a step forward, and I swear all 3 Sterlings took a step back. "Don't you dare lie to me." "I saw everything. I watched you shove your pregnant daughter-in-law into a lake. I watched your son turn away while she struggled. I watched all of you stand there like it was nothing." Robert opened his mouth to speak, but Marcus held up his hand. "No, you're done talking. Now you're going to listen, because I'm about to make this the biggest mistake you've ever made in your privileged, pathetic lives." That was the moment I knew. The Sterlings had just crossed the wrong man. To understand why Marcus reacted the way he did, you need to know our history. My brother and I grew up with nothing. Our parents worked 3 jobs between them just to keep food on the table. We lived in a cramped apartment in the rough part of town, where you learned quickly to stand up for yourself or get trampled. Marcus, being 4 years older than me, became my protector. He fought my battles before I even knew they existed. When I had Sarah at 19, single and scared, Marcus stepped up again. He helped me raise her. He was at every school play, every parent-teacher conference, every moment that mattered. Sarah didn't have a father, but she had Uncle Marcus, and that was enough. Marcus built himself up from nothing. He started as a construction worker, put himself through night school, and eventually built a successful contracting business. He never forgot where he came from, though. He never developed the arrogance that sometimes comes with success. Sarah grew up watching her uncle work for everything he had. She learned the value of honesty, hard work, and loyalty, which is why it broke my heart when she fell for Michael Sterling. Michael came from the world we'd only seen in magazines: old money, country clubs, family estates. He pursued Sarah relentlessly, and she was swept up in it. He seemed different from his family, more grounded, more real. Or so we thought. The first time we met the Sterlings was at a country club luncheon. They looked at Marcus and me like we were stains on their expensive furniture. Patricia actually wrinkled her nose when I mentioned where Sarah and I lived. Robert interrupted Marcus mid-sentence to take a phone call, then never asked him to continue. But the worst part was how they treated Sarah. They smiled at her, complimented her, welcomed her, but it all felt like a performance, like they were evaluating livestock, not meeting their future daughter-in-law. Marcus saw through it immediately. After that lunch, he pulled Sarah aside. "These people are dangerous," he told her. "They don't see you as a person. They see you as something they can acquire and control." But Sarah was in love. She believed Michael was different. She believed love could bridge any divide. The wedding was a nightmare. The Sterlings took over everything, turning Sarah's dream of a simple, intimate ceremony into a 300-person spectacle. Marcus had to be physically restrained from leaving when Patricia made a toast that included the line, "We're so pleased Michael chose someone with such potential." After the wedding, things got worse. The Sterlings began systematically isolating Sarah from us. Suddenly, family dinners conflicted with Sterling family obligations. Holidays were spent at the Sterling estate. Phone calls became shorter and less frequent. Michael encouraged Sarah to quit her teaching job because Sterling wives don't work. Then, Sarah got pregnant. When she told us the news, she was glowing but also scared. "They're already talking about nannies and boarding schools," she whispered. "They keep saying things like our Sterling grandchild and proper upbringing. It's like I'm just an incubator." Marcus's jaw tightened. "Don't let them take control of this, Sarah. This is your baby, your family." But by then, the Sterlings had already begun their plan. We just didn't know how far they were willing to go. The family retreat at the Sterling Lake House was supposed to be a peace offering, a chance for both families to bond before the baby arrived. I didn't want to go, and Marcus absolutely refused at first. But Sarah begged us. She was desperate for some kind of harmony, some sign that her baby could grow up with one united family. So we went, and we walked straight into a trap. The Sterlings were cold from the moment we arrived. They gave Marcus and me the guest house, literally separating us from the main house where Sarah was staying. They scheduled activities that conveniently excluded us. Every meal felt like a performance where we were the unwanted audience. On the second day, Marcus went for a walk around the property. That's when he overheard them. He found me in the guest house an hour later, his face pale with fury. "We need to talk," he said, "and we need to record everything from this point forward." He'd heard Patricia, Robert, and Michael in the study, discussing their plan. They'd been working with their lawyers for months, building a case for custody. They had a doctor ready to testify that Sarah was mentally unstable. They had documents claiming she'd agreed to let them raise the child. They'd even discussed waiting until after the birth to file papers, catching Sarah when she'd be most vulnerable. "They're going to take her baby," Marcus said, his voice shaking. "They've been planning this since the day she announced the pregnancy. This whole marriage was a setup. I felt sick. We need to tell Sarah." "We will, but first, we need proof. They're rich and connected. Our word against theirs means nothing. We need them to incriminate themselves on camera." That's when Marcus came up with a plan. He started leaving his phone recording in strategic locations. He positioned my husband near the dock with his phone camera running, pretending to take nature photos. He asked me to engage Patricia in conversation about her plans for the baby while recording on my phone. And that's how we were all positioned when the confrontation happened. Sarah had finally found some of the legal documents hidden in Michael's briefcase. She confronted Patricia on the dock, with all of us within earshot. The mask came off completely. Patricia didn't just admit to the custody plan, she gloated about it. "This child is a Sterling," Patricia sneered. "You think we'd let someone like you raise it? You're nothing but a temporary incubator. Michael never loved you. We chose you specifically because you'd be easy to remove from the picture." Sarah was crying, her hands protectively over her belly. "Michael, tell her she's wrong. Tell her you love me." Michael couldn't even look at her. "My family comes first," he said flatly. "It always has." That's when Sarah turned to leave, and Patricia grabbed her arm. "You're not going anywhere. We've already filed the preliminary papers. The baby stays with us. Let go of me." Sarah tried to pull away, and that's when Patricia shoved her, hard, with both hands. Sarah didn't have time to catch herself. She went backward off the dock, hitting the water with that terrible splash. If you're connecting with this story, I'd love for you to subscribe. We share powerful, real-life stories like this every week. Marcus saw everything, and in that moment, something inside my brother snapped. The man who'd protected me my whole life, who'd helped raise Sarah, who'd worked so hard to give us a better life, he was done playing by their rules. After Marcus pulled Sarah from the water, he didn't say another word to the Sterlings. He helped Sarah into my car, his jaw set and his eyes cold. "Take her to the hospital," he said quietly. "Call our lawyer. I'll be there in an hour." "Marcus, what are you going to do?" I asked, suddenly afraid of the answer. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I'm going to give them exactly what they deserve." What happened in the next hour became local legend. First, Marcus went back to the dock where the Sterlings were conferring with their lawyer, who'd apparently been on the property the whole time. Marcus walked up calm as anything, pulled out his phone, and played the recording, all of it. Patricia admitting to the custody plot, Michael confessing he'd never loved Sarah. The moment of the push, captured in crystal clear video. "This goes to the police in 45 minutes, Marcus said. "That gives you time to call your own lawyers and prepare for the assault charges, conspiracy to commit fraud, and whatever else the DA decides to throw at you." "You can't prove," Robert started. "I have 3 different video angles and 4 audio recordings from 3 separate devices," Marcus interrupted. "I have timestamps. I have witnesses. I have everything I need to destroy you. But that's just the beginning." Then, Marcus made a few phone calls. See, in his years as a contractor, my brother had built relationships all over town. He knew journalists, business owners, community leaders. Within 20 minutes, he'd sent the video to every local news station and newspaper in the county. But Marcus's real genius was understanding how the Sterlings' world worked. Their power came from their reputation. So he didn't just go after them legally. He went after their image. He called every board member of every charity Patricia served on. He sent the video to every member of Robert's country club. He contacted the dean of the private school where the Sterlings were major donors. He reached out to Robert's business partners and investors. Marcus understood something crucial. People like the Sterlings could survive legal troubles with expensive lawyers. But they couldn't survive being exposed as the kind of people who'd assault a pregnant woman and plot to steal her baby. By the time Marcus got to the hospital, the story was everywhere. The video had been shared thousands of times. The news was running it on loop. The Sterlings' phones were ringing off the hook with people distancing themselves from the scandal. But Marcus wasn't done. He'd also called in every favor he'd earned over his career. Construction workers who'd worked on Sterling properties came forward with stories of unpaid wages and unsafe conditions. Former Sterling employees talked about the family's cruelty and abuse. The facade of the perfect, respectable family crumbled in real time. The legal consequences came swift and harsh. Criminal charges for assault, civil suits for emotional distress and conspiracy, a restraining order keeping them away from Sarah and the baby. Michael served with divorce papers before he even left the police station. The custody documents they'd forged were exposed as fraudulent. The doctor who'd agreed to lie lost his medical license. The lawyer who'd helped them was disbarred. The Sterling's web of corruption unraveled thread by thread, and Marcus was there pulling every single one. But the most brutal revenge was social. Within a week, the Sterlings were pariahs in their own circles. Patricia was removed from her charity boards. Robert lost major business contracts. Their friends abandoned them. Their country club membership was politely revoked. Marcus had systematically dismantled their entire world, and he did it all in less than 72 hours. When it was over, he came to the hospital and sat with Sarah while she recovered. "Nobody touches my family," he said simply. "Nobody. 6 months have passed since that day at the lake, and life looks completely different now." Sarah gave birth to a healthy baby boy, my grandson, Jacob. She named him Jacob Marcus, after my brother. The day she told Marcus the baby's middle name, I saw tears in my brother's eyes for the first time since we were children. Sarah's recovery has been slow but steady. The physical trauma healed quickly, but the emotional scars took longer. She went through periods of anger, grief, and guilt. She blamed herself for not seeing the truth about Michael and his family sooner, but with therapy, family support, and time, she's becoming herself again, stronger and wiser. Michael tried to fight the divorce, but Marcus had documented everything too thoroughly. Michael's own lawyers advised him to accept Sarah's terms. He signed away his parental rights in exchange for avoiding further criminal charges. We haven't heard from him since. The Sterlings lost almost everything. Their legal fees alone nearly bankrupted them. Robert's business collapsed when partners and clients fled. Patricia became a cautionary tale in her former social circles. The last I heard, they'd sold the lake house and moved to another state, trying to escape the shadow of their scandal. Some people said Marcus went too far, that he was too ruthless, too unforgiving. But I watched what they tried to do to my daughter and my grandson. I saw the cold calculation in their eyes as they planned to steal Sarah's baby. I heard Patricia admit that they'd never seen Sarah as human, just as an obstacle to overcome. Marcus didn't go too far. He went exactly as far as necessary to protect his family and ensure the Sterlings could never hurt anyone else the same way. My brother taught me something important through all of this. Sometimes justice isn't about forgiveness or taking the high road. Sometimes justice is about making sure cruel people face real consequences for their actions. Sometimes protecting the people you love means being willing to fight dirty against people who never planned to fight fair. Marcus still comes over almost every day to see Jacob. He built the crib himself, constructed a custom changing table, and is already planning a treehouse for when Jacob is older. Watching this tough, rough-around-the-edges man make silly faces to get a baby to giggle, it reminds me why family is worth fighting for. Sarah is building a new life, slowly but surely. She went back to teaching part-time and is dating again, though very cautiously. She's learned to trust her instincts and to see red flags she might have ignored before. Most importantly, she's learned that she's strong enough to survive anything. As for me, I've learned not to underestimate the power of one determined person standing up for what's right. Marcus took on a wealthy, connected family with unlimited resources, and he won. Not because he had more money or better lawyers, but because he had something they didn't: genuine love for his family and a willingness to fight for them with everything he had. If this story moved you, please consider subscribing to our channel for more real stories about family, justice, and resilience. The Sterlings thought they could push around people they considered beneath them. They thought their wealth and status made them untouchable. They learned the hard way that you don't mess with someone's family, especially when that family includes someone like my brother Marcus. Because Marcus didn't just make them regret what they did. He made sure they'd never forget it.